upon their release from the they receive whatever amount of money they have credited in their favor after after deducting the obligation they have. So after their release from the colony, or they ever receive whatever they receive amount uh, amount of money they have credit in their favor. So unsa what they have want to buy or what to want to do uh, after deducting the obligation they have. So next. So Iway is divided into four zones uh, or district, central sub colony with area of 14,700 hectares, Santa Lucia with 9,685 hectares, Montebao with 8,000 hectares, and Inagawan with 13,000 hectares. So this is the uh, um, areas and the hectares of the different prisons. So recent develops and presidential proclamation have dramatically produced the size of the prison reservation of Iwag. So uh, the recent developments and the presidential proclamation have dramatically reduced the size of prison reservation of Iwag. So whatever the um, the the department or the agency wanted um, to do, the area or the landmass is um, the reservation Iwahig, or the reservation of Iwahig will be reduced the size. Uh, so next, correctional institution for women, or CIW. So this is the picture or the image of the correctional institution for women. In a report dated January 22, 1959, submitted to a committee created by Administrative Order Number 287 by the President of the Philippines, it was noted that before a separate building was constructed especially for women prisoners, all female convicted were confined an old Bilibid prison on Ascaraga uh, Street in Manila. The male prisoner were confined into dormitories near the women's quarters. So the this system or this prison is the separation of the prisoners from men and women. So in order um, to uh, in order uh, to what is tulikay is order uh, to disregard the um, problems that might be encountered if um, um, without separation of the prisoners. So next, because of this condition, vocational uh, activities of the women prisoners are prisoners were limited to embroidery. When they became ill, the women were confined in a separate building which served as a hospital with nurse and prison physician. So, if there are um, um, vocational activities um, where prisoners will be limited in embroidery because when there are prisoners become ill and the woman will be confined in separate building which serve as a hospital with a nurse and a prison physician. So the male prisoners were confined in dormitories near the women headquarters. So the men are confined dormitories near in the in the women quarters. When women prisoners needed surgery, they were operated on the Bilibid prison. After the operation, they were transferred to infirmary for convol convalescing. So they will transfer it because for the sake of their health and for the health also for the other prisoners. It will be transferred in infirmary for convalescence. Prison authorities were aware of the conditions that the women prisoners had to endure. Consequently, the transfer of the women to the separate site became inevitable after a series of negotiations started by prison director Ramon Victorio. The Philippine legislature passed Republic Act number 3579 in November 1929. Uh, it it authorized the transfer of all women inmates to a building in welfare will at Mandaluyong, Rizal, and appropriate 6,000 pesos for the move. So it is very expensive um, in the way of or in the system of moving prisoners into another. On February 14, 1931, the women prisoners were transferred from the old Bilibid prison to the buildings specially constructed for men for them. Um, its, its old name, Women's Prison, was changed to Correctional Institution for Women. So the old name of the CIW or the Correctional Institution for Women was Women's Prison. It was transferred in the Bilibid prison, a building specially constructed for them. This was in keeping with emerging trends in penology, which emphasize correction rather than punishment. Convicts were brought back into social mainstream, adjust and rehabilitate with a better outlook in life. CIW or the Correctional Institution for Women, according to a Senate report, occupied 10 hectares. The original structure was a one-story building which housed the office, the brigades, brigade, mess hall, kitchen, chapels, infirmary, bathrooms, and employees' restroom. So the original of the facility of the CIW, or the correctional institution for women, was structured in by one-story building only, which household the office. The building was a central courtyard with trees and flowering plants. The prisoners' vocation activities were expanded into include poultry and piggery, as well as cultivation of crops and flowers and fruits. So the building was a centered courtyard for trees and flowering plants, and the prisoners, they do activities were expanded to include poultry and piggery and cultivation they that um, they that they can help their lives and to the system. Living quarters for the institution employees were later constructed in the compound. Japanese occupation, the CIW, uh, despite a drastic reduction in the number of its employees, continue with its work. A number of female military prisoners were also confined in the institution. They were later freed by the U.S. Army. After the war, the CIW, or the Correctional Institution for Women, reassumed its normal operation. So they resumed the normal operation after the war. Weekly kitchen classes were introduced. A dental clinic was built. Local telephones were installed in the uh, guard quarters. So they can communicate to their loved ones, and when they have a message for someone. The Bureau of Public Works made major repairs on the main building, and the workshop and infirmary were constructed for the inmates' use. The infirmary during the time could accommodate around 60 patients. So the infirmary can also accommodate around 16 patients. So the Bureau of Public Works made major repair on the main building, workshop, and infirmary. In 2000, a new four-story building was constructed by the Department of Public Works within the grounds of CIW, or the Correctional Institution for Women. It aids the growing congestion in the facility. The CIW, with a capacity for only 200 inmates, had accommodated 1,000 inmates. So this is the development, or the improvement of the facility, wherein inmates can accommodate 1,000 inmates from, um, unlike the previous who can accommodate only 200 inmates. So this is a good development of their system, because the women prisoners cannot can not suffer or cannot experience overcrowding. So, Davao Penal Colony. So, this is the farm or the cultivation or the activities of Davao Penal Colony. The Davao Penal Colony is the first penal settlement founded at and organized under Filipino administration. The settlement, which originally had an area of approximately 300 hectare, 30,000 hectares in the district of Panabo and Tagum, Davao del Norte, was formally established on January 21, 1932 by virtue of Act number 3732. So, Davao Penal Colony is the first penal colony founded and organized under Filipino administration. Unlike others, so it it is a landmass of about 30,000 hectares. So this is a big area for the prisoners. This act authorized the government general to lease or sell the lands, buildings, and improvements in San Ramon Prison and Iwahig Penal Colony. It also granted authority to Secretary of Justice to establish a new prison and penal colony in a suitable public land. So a budget of 500,000 pesos was allocated. Several committees were created to pick a suitable site for the penal settlement. So it has a big budget ranging into 500,000 pesos to build uh, this facility or this system. In accordance with the recommendation of these committees, governors Dwight Davis signed proclamation number 414 on October 7, 1931, which deserve as a site for the penal colony in Davao Provincial in the Mindanao. This site offered ideal conditions for agricultural activities. So, in accordance the recommendation of the committees, assigned the proclamation number 414 on October 7, 1931, which revised a site for a penal colony in Davao province in Mindanao. During the World War II, the colony was converted in a concentration camp where more than 1,000 Japanese internees were committed by the Philippine-American Armed Force. The Japanese were treated in accordance with the orders of the American commanding officer. So, during the World War II, the colony was converted into a concentration camp. So, the colony this is a previous concentration camp where more than 1,000 Japanese internees were committed by the Philippine-American Armed Force. So, the Japanese were treated at accordance with others of the American commanding officer. On December 20, 1941, the Japanese Imperial Forces attacked Davao, and the colony was among the establishment taking over the invading army. The entire settlement was thrown in confusion, and a great number of prisoners escaped. So, during the war, um, um, they have the negative effects and um, the negative um, outcomes, wherein prisoner escape. Many prisoners escape, and a settlement was thrown into confusion. So the Japanese Imperial Force attacked Davao, and the colony was among establishment was taking over the invading army. So this is very um, unwanted situation or happenings in those times.